If you ask me that how much important a camera lens actually is for getting a good quality image, the answer is it's actually more important than your camera body itself. If you are a beginner and if you want to buy a new camera lens or old camera lens for your setup, then you have to have an idea that which lens actually used for which purpose. Suppose you want to shoot portrait and you bought a what is called wide angle lens, then you're not going to get a better quality portrait shot. For getting a better quality portrait shot, you have to have like some prime lens, and the prime lens will give you a better result like 50 millimeter or you know 70 75 millimeter or stuff like that. But if you are planning to buy a 16 millimeter f1.4 lens for portrait photography, then that will never give you a best result. So that's why you need to understand that what's your purpose, what you want to do with your camera. In today's video, I'm going to share with you that which lens actually used for which purpose, so that you can get an idea and you can take your own decision. So basically in today's video, I decided to talk about 5 different lenses that mostly used in photography or in videography. So in number 5, I'm going to discuss about my favorite lens. It's called prime lens. Prime lens, also known as fixed focal length. As you can understand by the name that the focal length of prime lens is actually fixed. That means you can't zoom in or you can't zoom out using this lens. But then why I love using prime lens? Just because of prime lens comes with most wider aperture number, like Canon 50mm f1.8 or f1.4, or if you're planning buy some, there are some lens like f0.95. Remember, this kind of all lower aperture lens comes with fixed focal length lenses, not with zoom lens, and that's why you get a best result in low light using some prime lens, not with a zoom lens, and that's why I love using some prime lens. But prime lens have one problem that I already told you, that you can't zoom in or you can't zoom out. The fixed, the focal length is actually fixed. So that's mean if you want to get closer to your subject, then you have to move physically and you have to get closer. If you want to get a little bit further away from your subject, then you have to get you have to go physically a little bit further away for making or for taking a wider field of view images. So that's actually one downside. Otherwise, prime lens are the best. Let's talk about the second lens in our list, is the zoom lens. As you can understand by the name that you can zoom in or zoom out using this lens. That means you don't need to move physically for a perfect frame, unlike the prime lens. And that is the advantage of a zoom lens. But zoom lens has one problem, and one major problem, that most of the zoom lens comes with variable aperture system. But what does the variable aperture actually means? Suppose you are shooting with a zoom lens like Sony 16 to 50 f3.5 to 5.6. So you are shooting at 16mm f3.8 and you want to zoom in all the way to 50. If you zoom in from 16 to 50mm, as you zoom in, your aperture number will be increased. That means if you are shooting at 16mm at 3.5 and if you zoom in, then your aperture number will be increased as you zoom in. That is, if you zoom in all the way to 50, then your aperture will be goes up to f5.6. So that's actually one problem with most of the zoom lens. But some of the zoom lens also comes with fixed aperture. That means if you're shooting at 16mm f2.8 and if you zoom in all the way to 50mm, then your aperture will be still at 2.8. But those lenses are really expensive. Like Sony 16 to 35 f2.8, Sony 24 to 70 f2.8, Sony 70 to 200 f2.8, etc. There are too many lenses in this category. But the problem is those are the lenses crazy expensive, and I don't think so most of the beginners are, you know, planning, or most of the beginner have this amount of money at the very first moment for investing for lens like this one. Wide angle lens. First of all, let me clarify the meaning of wide angle. The most common description of a wide angle lens is: a wide angle lens display a wider field of view than our vision. That means if you are seeing that much in your eyes, then a wide angle lens can see more than your eyes, like this much. And that's why they call wide angle lens. Wide angle lens sees more than your eyes vision. As simple as that, right? Yeah. But the main question is that what focal length would be considered as a wide angle lens? A lens below or equivalent to 35mm is considered as a wide angle lens. This is roughly 63 degrees of diagonal field of view. These lenses are mostly used for taking like landscape photos like this one. Or you can say this lens actually used for to show as much as possible in one frame. Macro lens. Before discussing about macro lens, I think we need to know first about that what is macro photography. In a simple language, macro photography is the magnification of a small subject. Like what a regular photographer does. A regular photographer takes a large object and make it small. Where a macro photographer or a macro photography does that, they takes a small object and they show in a bigger size. So now you can say, or you can tell that macro photography is the totally opposite of regular photography. In another language, we can say that instead decreasing the size of the object, a macro photographer or a macro lens actually increase the size of an object. That means a macro lens actually show a small object in a large size. If I show you some picture, then I think that will give you a better view, and that will help you to understand more easily. Like we all know that how small an ant is in real life. But if I show you one photo of an ant or of an ant, then you will see that how big it's looking in this photo. Just because of they used a macro lens to shoot this photo. And that's why the ant is looking massive, right? And that is the reason, that's why I said that macro lens is a kind of a magnification of an object. You got an idea. There still have a lot of many names like manual focus lens, like tilt lens, and so on. So we are not going to discuss about those lenses because those lenses are not widely used, and the lenses I have talked about, those lenses are widely used, and that's why I think you have to have an idea about those things. And when you think that you got an idea about those things, you will start learning about those ultra things like some expensive lens like manual focus lens that I am talking about. Manual focus lens actually used by more professional, like they're working in Hollywood or stuff like that, big budget film, right? So they are use some manual lens. So you got an idea. There are some lens like that, but yeah, in today's video I'm not going to discuss about it. This video already becomes really long, and if you watched it till the end, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching till the end. See you to the next one.